Hola amigos, pero no, y saludos desde Medellín. Hoy, como dice ayer, hoy es el primer día con mi nuevo proceso para mejorar mi español. Entonces quiero compartir con ustedes cómo estoy haciendo este proceso. Estoy utilizando los técnicos que estamos hablando en los vídeos anterior, muchas veces para leer textos en voz alta, para mejorar la pronunciación y también entender nuevo vocabulario. Y también utilizar estos textos para estudiar formas nuevos o más complicados gramáticos que puede ser poco más confundir. Para más o menos es para enfocar en situaciones prácticas para mí o con un texto o algo libro, algo para leer que también tiene un contenido que me interesa o que es apto para, por ejemplo, para mi trabajo. Yo he empezado hoy, yo utilizar un mixto con libros que yo tengo aquí o libros que yo encontré en la biblioteca cerca de mi casa aquí y también para algunas formas muy específicas yo utilizar el herramienta como dice ChatGPT, muy útil porque con este tipo de AI tú puedes preguntar directamente con la computadora, dice, por favor, escríbeme un texto con esta forma de contenido. Esa es la cosa que yo voy a empezar hoy. Yo dice muy claramente cómo yo quiero leer o cuál contenido yo quiero leer, entender y cuál forma yo quiero ser capaz para hablar. Entonces, en mi caso, algo por mi trabajo, cómo yo puedo hacer, cómo yo puedo hablar mejor con el tema de cómo yo hacer mis clases de inglés, pero cómo yo puedo hablar con este tema con gente en español. Yo empecé en esta forma y la computadora escribe un texto muy largo con este tema. Ahora yo voy a compartir un parte de este texto y después continuar a explicar cómo funciona esta en inglés, si ustedes también pueden practicar su inglés. Listo. Entonces, primero yo voy a leer la primera parte con el texto que yo estoy practicando hoy. La importancia de la comunicación efectiva y la enseñanza en la enseñanza de idiomas, la comunicación efectiva es fundamental para el éxito de los estudiantes. Los profesores deben ser capaces de transmitir información de manera clara y precisa, utilizando un lenguaje accesible y adaptado al nivel de sus alumnos. There we go. So, after all that preamble, that's a quick example of the first paragraph of probably about 8 or so paragraphs that I asked the computer AI, that ChatGPT, if you haven't tried it, it's a very useful tool. I asked it to write me a text in Spanish talking about basically the way I teach classes of English. So the kind of methodology I use. I gave it some ideas about what that was. And I said, can you write me something in Spanish about that topic? That's what I got. Now the other useful thing with this is obviously it's a text that's very specific to something I want to talk about. So in that sense, using this kind of AI AI technology to help you write it is very helpful, particularly because it can write it for you in your new language. So for me, this is all done for me in Spanish. If I find this too confusing, it will also do a type of writing for you where it will give you line by line, like a parallel text. So you can request it to write it for you with the one line in one language, followed immediately by the translation, which you might find more useful. But in either case, you can get a text very specific to the topic you want to talk about. And that's very helpful, because that way you're going to practice vocabulary that's useful to you specifically. But more importantly, you get something useful that you can read aloud. Now, this techno does actually also allow you a facility where you can read it back to it. It will then transcribe what you've read, and it will give you some points if you say something really badly wrong. But obviously, the easiest way to practice it really is just to read this to someone who's a more native speaker, and they can immediately give you feedback on how you sound. You might find that a more useful way of doing it. But in any event, finding the text is very useful, because that gives you very focused vocabulary for something you want to improve or talk about, which sometimes might be difficult to find in books in your library. So I find that very helpful. So that's what I've started with today. So I've done some reading of this text. The second thing the computer offered me as well, it's like a quiz. It offers you like a comprehension quiz when you've read the text. Can you answer some questions on that? And that again, although you can type or read your answers to it and it transcribes it, it checks back your spelling and gives you some options if you really got your answer wrong. So that's quite a useful tool for that. But certainly the reading aloud, I think, is the key thing. It doesn't matter whether you practice it with a text that's just going to give you lots more vocabulary and improve your comprehension, or whether you try and pick a more specific dialogue for a situation that's very useful to you. Some other ones I'm going to be trying later on in the next couple of days will be situations I encounter here regularly, try and improve my fluency in that situation. So, when I'm going shopping and I'm traveling, these kind of conversations. Because that helps us feel less stressed about those situations when they come up, because it's something that we have practiced. But anyway, that shows you how I'm starting doing this. Hope you find that useful. Hope that inspires you a little bit. So my suggestion to you, if you're trying this to improve your English initially, first thing to do, clearly think about what's the topic area you want to improve. Where do you want to build up your level of vocabulary and your competence to talk about that topic? Find some texts, or if you like, get the computer to help you write one that's very specific to you, that talks about things you need to improve or things you're interested in. Practice reading that aloud, ideally with some native speakers if you can, because you'll get very quick feedback on how you sound. They'll easily be able to help you with your accent and your general pronunciation. Check you've understood it okay. So in that sense, the computer's a good thing for that, because it'll give you the translation if you need it. Start looking at the patterns of words and phrases you find in the text, because that again is going to help you when you start expressing opinions on that topic. And maybe again, look at answering questions from the text. So don't just rely just on reading it. Can you say something about the topic that you've just been reading about? Because that takes it to another level. That's beyond just speaking it, now it's talking about it. And that's the real challenge. That's the next bit for me that gets a bit more tricky. To be able to answer more detailed questions on this topic area. So we'll see how that goes, because that's the next part I'm heading into, I think, into tomorrow. Okay, so this was a longer video today perhaps than normal, but I hope you find that one useful. Déjeme saber en los comentarios just cuál es su opinión con mi español, bien o no. I hope it's going to improve. But for now, at least for Medellin, where it has actually stopped raining, as you see, we'll say cheerio.